Trump's been mouthing off again, spouting nonsense on Fox News on April 7th, claiming world leaders would line up to kiss his ass just to beg for a tariff exemption deal. The words came out so crude and vulgar. He sounded more like a dockside thug than a president. His sidekick Vance isn't any better, openly mocking the Chinese as peasants. This clown duo has truly smashed whatever's left of the US's world leader and beacon of humanity facade into dust. During the interview, Trump swaggered on, swearing Chinese leaders are dying to cut a deal with him. They just don't know how to start. And he's lounging in the White House waiting for Xi Jinping's call, acting like the whole planet owes him a favor. Pure narcissism on full display. But before Trump could even warm up his daydream, China slapped him hard across the face. On April 9th, China's State Council Tariff Commission fired back, announcing a 50% tariff hike on all U.S. imports, stacked on top of the existing 34%, pushing the total rate to a whopping 84%, covering everything from soybeans and cars to semiconductors. No mercy spared. This isn't begging for peace. It's a full-on smackdown in front of the entire world. Yet Trump and his cabinet have this bizarre obsession with phone calls. On April 7th, he bragged on Truth Social, saying if China doesn't drop its 34% tariffs, the U.S. would hit back with 50%, only for China to not just hold firm, but double down with matching retaliation. Trade Secretary Lighthizer and Economic Advisor Kudlow took turns hyping it up, insisting she would call to grovel any day now. But reality? No call came. Just tariffs landing like a ton of bricks. Trump even tried playing the gracious host back on December 11th, 2024, inviting Xi to his January 20th, 2025 inauguration, hoping to recreate that 2019 Osaka handshake charade. Too bad he didn't even get a whisper in reply. China's foreign ministry shot back coolly on April 8th. Trade wars have no winners. At this rate, forget a visit. They might not even bother with a Zoom call. Trump's best trick is blowing hot air. Everyone on Earth knows it. He once thumped his chest, claiming he'd fix the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Yet at the 2024 UN General Assembly, he humiliated Zelensky in front of global media, pinning the war's blame square on Ukraine. Vance piled on, jabbing that Zelensky didn't even say thanks. Zelensky's country was half rubble then, Kiev's lights flickering on generators. But he still refused to sign Trump's humiliating ceasefire deal. Tough as nails and damn impressive. If a nation in that kind of hell can stand up to Trump's blackmail, why would any country in better shape bend the knee? He's still yapping about forcing nations to sign, erase trade deficit deals. Who'd dare? Signing that is a one-way ticket to being branded a traitor, booted out by their own people. Putin mocked him in 2023, saying he can't even read a map. Trump couldn't handle Ukraine or Russia, yet he thinks he can crush China. His head must be full of hot gas to float that high. Sure, some small fry caved, but what's the point? Vietnam scrambled a delegation to the U.S. on April 6th, pledging to buy an extra $5 billion in American goods yearly to dodge a 46% tariff. But that's peanuts compared to their $120 billion in exports to the U.S. in 2024. Vietnamese wallets aren't deep. They don't need F-35 fighters or AI chips. What? Are they going to buy U.S. corn to feed chickens? Even if they wanted to close the trade gap. With what? Japan's slicker. On April 8th, its Ministry of Economy declared Toyota would sink another $5 billion into a U.S. factory. Yet Trump didn't blink. Tariffs stayed put. South Korea's Samsung tried negotiating, planning to expand a chip plant in Texas, only for word to leak on April 9th that they've hit pause. All because the U.S. Commerce Department tacked on last-minute demands. These little nations hustle and bustle, but all they get is Trump's sneer. His extortion racket can't even squeeze out decent cash. It's just a pathetic solo act. Xi Jinping's no pushover. Back in 2018, when Trump blindsided China with tariffs, their growth slipped from 6.6% to 6.1%. a grudge she's been nursing ever since. Trump's flip-flops are legendary. He inked the Phase 1 trade deal in 2020, promising $200 billion in U.S. purchases, then bailed before half was delivered. She's long pegged him as an unreliable clown. She's got China's economy on lock. 2024 saw GDP growth climb back to 5.8%. His clout's at its peak. No room whatsoever to bow to the U.S. With a guy like Trump who grabs an inch and demands a mile, giving ground just invites crazier terms. The EU learned that the hard way. In 2024, they offered zero tariffs. German Chancellor Scholz flew to Washington to pitch it, only to eat a 10% baseline tariff from Trump on April 2nd. China saw it coming. Their customs systems now rigged to track every shipment's path. They've stockpiled billions of chips, doubled rare earth reserves, amassed 30 million tons of soybeans, and got enough natural gas to last half a year, all set for Trump to stumble into the trap. Trump clearly misread the board. He thought the U.S. could still snap its fingers and watch the world jump, never expecting China to hit back this hard. When those April 9th tariffs dropped, the yuan dipped to 7.3, but the Shanghai index bucked the trend, climbing 2.1%, a vote of confidence in Beijing's spine. Other nations took note of China's grit. Countries ready to cave started rethinking their red lines. Japan's Ministry of Economy huddled on April 10th, debating retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Toyota execs grumbled about pulling production back to Asia. South Korea's Samsung shelved its Texas plant expansion. CEO Lee Jae-yong griping privately that U.S. policies got no bottom line. Canada couldn't sit still either. On April 8th, they slapped a 15% tariff on U.S. aluminum, payback for Trump's 25% steel and aluminum tax. The EU went further. On April 9th, Commission President von der Leyen said they've got a €20 billion retaliation list ready to roll. Trump's tariff war didn't cow his foes. It's got his allies turning on him. Talk about shooting himself in the foot. If this tariff war drags on, it's doomed to crash and burn. Trump's only ace is leaning on the dollar's global clout, printing cash like mad to spread the pain worldwide. But that's no lifeline. It's a death spiral. By 2024, U.S. debts ballooned past $40 trillion. Interest eating up 20% of the federal budget. Print more and the dollar's trust tanks faster. Saudi Arabia is already settling 10% of its oil in yuan since 2024. Russia and Brazil are yelling about ditching the dollar at BRICS summits. Even the European central banks tinkering with a digital euro. Trump's speeding up the dollar's downfall with his own hands. When that hits, manufacturing keeps bleeding out. Detroit's car plants turn to ghost towns. Even the military-industrial complex starves. F-22 lines shut down. F-35 upkeep becomes a pipe dream. What's left to prop up U.S. dominance? If Trump can't steamroll China fast and force them to kneel, the U.S.'s street cred's toast. On April 8th, the S&P 500 dropped 3%. Apple stock cratered 20%. All thanks to tariff panic and supply chain chaos. By the time he's desperate enough to crawl back to China for talks, the terms won't be this cushy. China's gripping rare earths and energy like aces. In 2024, they slashed export quotas by 30%, choking U.S. semiconductors and defense dead in their tracks. Customs data shows Q1 2025 exports to the U.S. are down to 12% of their total, a steep drop from 19% in 2018. Proof they've pivoted to new markets like Southeast Asia and Africa. Orders there are booming. If Trump can't see the writing on the wall, keeps charging down this dead-end road, he'll tank the U.S.'s global standing himself. When that day comes, forget leaders kissing his ass. He'll be lucky to hang onto his own throne.